And speaking of that parody, though, I got another question from you guys. You guys asked me, one of the OGs of this podcast. This is from Justin Dees, by the way. Asking about super conferences and how it could affect the sport. Well, Justin, I really do appreciate that. And I think it really depends on how you view the conference realignment. Now, it's not happening this year, but it's going to become into effect next year. We know that Texas and Oklahoma is going to the SEC. We also know that UCLA and USC, they're leaving the Pac-12 and they are going to the Big Ten. So for the first time, we will see two 16-team conferences. And for those of you that maybe play NCAA 14, utilize that college football revamp as well, we're getting to the point where there's legitimately too many teams in the conference to get everybody in the conference in a game, right? So that's where we're starting to get to. But all things considered, though, I think for me, it just really depends on the move itself, right? Like I look at it at a case by case basis, right? I'm not saying that it's going to be generally bad or generally good for the sport because even this year we do have plenty of college realignments happening. Most notably, we have Cincinnati, UCF, BYU, and Houston. They are all leaving. Well, most of them are leaving the American Conference. BYU is an exception. They were an independent. They're all joining the ranks of the Big 12. So for this year, the Big 12 will have 14 teams. You also have teams like Rice, Charlotte, Florida Atlantic as well. Those teams are filtering in from Conference USA. And I think North Texas is also getting in there as well. They're now an American Conference team. And then Conference USA, they're just trying their best to survive. They pulled up a couple of teams from the FCS level. They also got New Mexico State and Liberty as well. So the Conference USA of this past season did get capitalized. But like I said, I think it really just depends on a case by case basis, right? So the SEC, I didn't mind nearly as much. Yes, I always viewed Texas and Oklahoma as Big 12 schools, and I'm a big fan of tradition. I'm always going to be a traditionalist at the end of the day, with a few exceptions here or there. But if you want to like get it on a scale, I'm not like an extreme traditionalist, but lean towards being a traditionalist and having college football being regionalized, right? Kind of that particular path. And here's my thing about this, right? So the SEC added Oklahoma and Texas. And at least for Oklahoma and Texas are in the same footprint as the SEC. Texas, not the first team from Texas joined the SEC. Texas A&M is already in there as well. And looking at, bordering states, you also have Arkansas in the area and LSU is in the area as well. Oklahoma not too far from Texas. So the Red River rivalry is still going to live on even as these two teams transition from the Big 12 over to the SEC conference. But the Big 10 though, I know why they did it, but that don't mean I gotta like it, right? So UCLA and USC joined the Big Ten. I, I know why they did it. It's for the money. The Big Ten, they signed an extremely lucrative TV deal, one that is going to pay each school like $50 million a year for each Big Ten school. So from a financial standpoint, and I'm a financial guy myself, I get it, but I think it's going to have a negative impact, not only on the regionality of college football, but also, I mean, what's going to happen to these other sports? Now, football and basketball, I'm sure they're going to get their flights to be able to fly back and forth from each of the traditional Big Ten schools. So it's not as hard for them to get to, say, Rutgers or to Ohio State or to a Penn State. But What about the non-revenue sports? What about your cross countries and track and field? What about your volleyballs of the world? Are they going to get those same luxuries? And not to mention, at the end of the day, these are still student athletes. Most of them will not be going to the professional ranks, right? Very small percentage gets to enjoy any level of professional athletics after their college career does go to an end. That's still an insane amount of travel time. And it's not even guaranteed that these schools will provide flights to the farther out Big Ten schools. So, that's L for the logistics and to the regionality of college football, especially in the western part of the country. Just losing a lot of tradition there. I'm not a fan. I don't like that particularly, but for me, as long as it makes geographical sense, you know, do go off, King. That's really what it barrels down to. Um, will the SEC and the Big Ten be the only two super conferences that we see? I don't know. Only time will tell, because last year when there was rumors of USC and UCLA joining the Big Ten, I thought that it would never happen. I didn't believe it, but yet here we are a year later, and in less than 365 days, they will officially become members of the Big Ten. So, what do I know, right? What do I know? We'll have to wait and see what happens to the Big 12, by the way, because if there's a third super conference, they it might be the Big 12, but I think this is the last year that we can have that Power 5 terminology. We're going to need to split up that quote unquote Power 5 a little bit. I don't know what lingo to use to differentiate between, the Big 10 and the SEC, and then the other three power conferences in the Big 12, ACC, and the Pac 12 as well. You need to think of some terminology, because I think the Power 5, that's not going to really apply anymore after we do get into the following college football season. So let me know in the comments if you have any ideas of what we should do to really differentiate that. But yeah, that's really how I feel about these realignment in college football and essentially creating these super conferences.